And so for me, I've always, wanted to be an engineer, right? It didn't even matter if it was software engineer. I always wanted to be an engineer. Right from secondary school, I went for technical courses, right, which was TD, as opposed to maybe agric and the other science courses that most other students went for. And even before I got admission into school, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. But now Nigerian parents.
We are excited to have you today on this channel to talk about how to change your career, or how to actually add to your career. Chidinma here used to be a radiographer, or let's say a non-practicing radiographer at the moment, but now she is a software engineer. We are here to discuss that kind of pathway, how she navigated, and if you're looking to what's changing your career as well, she is here to answer some of the questions. Okay, happy to meet you. Do you want to tell us about yourself just briefly, and then how?
I'm a medical radiographer. Now I'm a software engineer, right? I'm a front-end software engineer. I currently work with Angela, with one of their partners, which is Coursera. So yeah, that's a summary about me. And yeah, that's basically.
You're a radiographer, and now you are a software engineer. What actually was the motivation? How and what really triggered your interest into going in that path?
So for me, I've always, wanted to be an engineer, right? It didn't even matter if it was software engineer. I always wanted to be an engineer. Right from secondary school, I went for technical courses, right, which was TD, as opposed to maybe agric and the other science courses that most other students went for. And even before I got admission into school, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. But now Nigerian parents, they were like, what is that? You're saying go and study nursing, or go and study something that that is medical related, and you're saying that you want to go and what is computer? So obviously I just followed my parents' advice at the time and went and studied medical radiography. But as soon as I was done, I was still sure that this is what I wanted to do, right? There's nothing like just following your dreams and just chasing your dreams, because that's the only way you can stay happy, as opposed to continuing a career path where that you're not finding fulfillment and happiness. I loved working in the hospital. We worked together once in the past. Actually loved working as a radiographer. But the thing is, there was just something else that I loved more, right? If I had a chance, I could still be a radiographer on the side and be a software engineer. It's just that it's not possible, right? I only have 24 hours in a day. But there was something else I loved more. There's nothing wrong with radiography, and I really, really actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed meeting patients, but I just, heard something else.
There's nothing absolutely wrong with changing your career. If you find yourself in a place or a profession or a career or whatever you're doing, and you feel not satisfied, there's nothing absolutely wrong in changing it. Okay, radiographers out there, don't be offended at all. We have not lost her. She is still a radiographer. Okay, anyways. So we need to also understand what kind of challenges did you face transitioning from your previous profession to what you do currently.
In 2017, I think I started learning when I was doing my internship, right? I think the number one challenge I had was obviously while I'm trying to transition, I didn't want to go hungry. I still had to have like a means of livelihood, right? And sometimes you're not 100% sure if this thing is going to work out, so you don't want to completely abandon what you're doing at the moment. So my greatest challenge was being able to balance it with work, having to go to the office every day, and also having to find time to learn the skills that I needed to be able to transition. At that time, I didn't even know exactly, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I just knew that, okay, I wanted to switch, and I just needed to learn as much as I could. So, my number one challenge was actually finding time to learn, finding the right resources as well. I didn't know very much about, what exactly it was, front-end engineering or even software engineering was all about. But what I knew for sure was I wanted to switch. So it was just a matter of, okay, what resources do I use? Where do I go to? How do I learn? I wasn't even thinking about money or, school at the time, because I knew that you could learn without necessarily having to go to school or having to do a paid course. But it was more about how do I go about it? How do I find the time? How do I learn the things I want to learn? And okay, when I've gotten the skills that I need to, how do I even get a job? Do you understand? Because it's one thing to learn, it's another thing to, you don't have a degree in this field, and so how are you going to get a job? So those are the major challenges that I had. But if I'm going to speak to them, it wasn't easy. I'm not going to lie, but I carried my laptop to work every single day. So in between patients, I would run to my laptop and just read one or two things. And maybe when I'm during my lunch break, I'd also go. I was just always on my laptop when I wasn't with a patient. That was one thing that I made sure that I did every single day for about 2 years. I was carrying my laptop to work every single day. So it wasn't fun. It wasn't easy, but I just knew that it was something that I enjoyed doing. So I didn't even see it as work at the time. And my weekends were also dedicated to me learning. My Saturdays actually, because Sundays, we have chores and other things to do. So, but I made sure that I dedicated my full Saturdays to actually learning from early in the morning until evening. Also after hours, it was just basically anytime I wasn't using at work or maybe social. I wasn't socializing as much that period because I knew that I was focusing on something else. But every free time I had, I was spending it just on my laptop, learning new things. I think it helps when you have a structured course, right? That you're doing. So as opposed to just learning different things on your own, because I had this university scholarship that I got. So there was courses that I had to take every day, or at least maybe I think it was 10 hours a week that I had to do. So that's so every time I'm on my laptop, it's not like I was just browsing random things. I was actually going on university, taking the courses that I needed to take, learning the things I needed to do. But it wasn't just university, right? It was a combination of different things. But the most important thing, as I've said, is just finding the time and just dedicating some time every week. Maybe even if it's just 6 hours, just being consistent at it, just dedicating this time to learning and learning. That's the only way to grow.
If they want to change their career, if they want to switch, for instance, someone that does a 9-to-5 job or a very tight schedule, and they're wondering, do I have to quit my job before I go into something different? Do I have to combine it? I mean, part of what you said, you were always carrying your laptop to work, and in between patients you did something, and that's absolutely fine. But do you think there are other ways people can go about changing their careers without having to quit their immediate job? Or so just need to know in a nutshell if there's anything around that situation.
It's possible for people to switch without necessarily quitting their jobs. These days, I think people are a bit lucky. There's the opportunity of flexible work or even like part-time. The truth is something has to give, right? You can't eat your cake and have it. So at some point, you'd have to make some sacrifices in some areas, even if it's letting go of, if you can't take the time off work, then you just have to maybe take the time off other things that you like doing, maybe like going to the gym or, going out for parties and all of that. Something just has to give. You just have to be able to find time and dedicate it, but you don't have to leave your job, except if you have like savings. If you're able to if you have enough savings that can last you for maybe a year, 6 months to a year, then maybe you can do that if you know that, because obviously leaving your job will give you more time and you can get there in a shorter amount of time, as opposed to someone who is combining it with work who will take like a year or maybe even longer, right? But I mean, if you leave your job and in 6 months you're done learning what you need to learn, then I think that's good. But just make sure that you have a way to sustain yourself and not go hungry in the process, because getting a job, everything may not go out exactly how you expect it to go. So I wouldn't recommend leaving your job. I would just say just find time around it. Yeah.
Finding time around it, you would be able to really, really, really get your hands into something. It might take a longer time, but obviously you get there. As opposed to someone who has just quit his job to go into full-time, studying or something. We understand that, you can still go back to school to learn, professionally or, take some more professional courses. But situations where you have people who work, what do you recommend in terms of, certification courses? How do you go about it? You've just mentioned some things you did, but, it would be nice if you throw more light in there. Tell us how, if for instance, I want to become a software engineer or I want to become something else, what courses do I have to go back to school? What is the role of certification courses? Do I need a mentor? Do I need, this is more like career change, path change.
And I think it depends on what area or what career path you're trying to switch to, right? Because different career paths have different things that you should know, different things that you learn. Some of them are best learned in an institution. And something like radiography, for example, obviously you have to go back to school, because you shouldn't just learn like quacks in quotes, right? So it just depends on what you're trying to do. But I think you have to do your investigations first, right? Talk to people who are already in this field. You can ask them, okay, what are the best steps? Do I necessarily have to go back to school? Or are there maybe certification courses I can? So there's some career paths that you're trying to switch to, right? You can start off with taking certification courses, or even like a part-time degree or a diploma, and you just do it for a couple of times. Once you've switched into that field, then maybe you're able to go to school for a different degree. But yeah, it just depends. Something like software engineering, for example, you don't necessarily have to go back to school. You can always do certification courses online. There are nano degrees that you can take online. There are so many courses, so many courses and resources that you can use online, from free to paid to even like school-like structure. But the thing is that you just have to know what works best for you, right? Depending on the career path that you're choosing and what will give you the best results in time. If you're going for free courses, there's a chance that it won't be structured. If you're going back to school, there's a chance that you get everything you need, but you may not even have the theory experience. Do you understand? So it's just different things. So you have to find what's best for what field you're going back to or going into rather. And yeah, I think talking to a mentor is very good. I had someone, I won't call him a mentor per se, but I had someone who I was always talking to, not just one person. In fact, I was always talking to different people, that asking questions, asking so many questions because I was very confused, right? So it's completely fine. If you have one person who is dedicated to guiding you, then that's fine, because they can just give you like shortest way. This person has gone ahead of you. They can always give you the shortest way possible for you to get to where you're going to. But if you don't have that, then you may just have to rely on online resources, right? Maybe certification courses. Don't leave your job yet, though. Still be doing certification courses. And just try to understand. Make sure that you understand what you're going into before you maybe quit your job to go back to school. But if there are courses you can take online, then it's very flexible. You don't have to quit your job or stuff. You understand? But if you have to go back to school, then I mean, it's a sacrifice that you should be willing to make for your happiness and for your future.
A lot about this, and just to add, honestly, studying a professional course is different from studying other courses that are not really professional per se. Just like she said, if you want to be a radiographer, obviously you have to go back to uni, you have to go to school and study radiography, as a profession. There are courses that don't really require you to go back to school. You probably would be okay doing some online courses or taking some part-time courses, okay, just like she said as well. I mean, there are resources online you could actually check out. You can go to some websites. I know Coursera, there are lots of other websites that provide such certification courses, right? You can make use of that opportunity as well. Just to, ask you again, Chidinma, back to software engineering. What sort of services do you provide? What things do you do when you say you're a software engineer? What sort of things do you do? To a layman, we don't understand what software engineering is.
I was going to use in the layman's terms. A friend of mine always says that front-end engineers are makeup artists. So basically, we build everything that the user sees on the front end. So when you use an application, when you use either a web application, right, or a mobile application, or anything basically that you interact with, you're seeing the buttons, the forms, the text on the screen, the things that you actually interact with, the things that you read. The visual part of an application is usually done by the front-end engineer. And so yeah, that's basically it. We just, add all the colors and all the text. It's more complicated than that, but I think that's the easiest way to explain to a layman. So any website you go to, the front end, the thing you're seeing, the thing you're interacting with was built by a front-end engineer. And we are seeing what's at the front, and then the engineers, the back-end engineers are the ones who are saving your data. When you ask for information, they're the ones who return it. But it's not like they're there real time, but they've written up code that basically does all these things, right? They've automated these processes. So when you fill a form, they take the data that you filled into the form, they do something with it. When you fill in information or when you click a button, there are some interactions that go in at the back end. So, we don't work in isolation, obviously. But yeah, I'm more front end than anything else.
You have a team of people who work with you and not just you providing these services. All right. And I think people also want to know, this is part of IT, right? What are other branches of IT people can go into? Apart from being a software engineer, you guys work as a team. So what are other things people can go into the other parts of IT?
When you hear the word software engineer, it's very easy to just think of maybe front end or back end, but there are other fields of IT, as you said, right? There are quality assurance engineers, there are data scientists who, when you've gathered all this data, they check the data, do manipulations with this data, and even give you like heuristics and predictions of the future, what can happen in the future based on this data. There are also AI engineers, machine learning engineers as well. I mean, you don't even have to code, right, to work in tech. There are product managers, scrum masters. Okay, those are the ones I can remember for now, but there are like just so many different fields. Even within software engineering, aside front end, back end, obviously there's UI UX, right? The designers who design these things. But even if you don't want to do UI, there are UX writers as well. Just so many fields, so many fields. So there's different things. There's a place for everyone, I think, in tech.
Someone said, I am a banker and I don't feel fulfilled in my job at the moment, and I want to go into tech. I don't know anything about tech, but this is what I want to do, and I think I want to find out which is the easiest pathway to get into tech. This is coming from a banker who wants to go into.
It's not easy path, I think, in life, except if you just want to be sleeping. So obviously, when you start any field at all, even in tech, no matter how easy you think it is, it's always going to be difficult. It's always going to seem difficult at first, right? But the longer time you spend in a field, the more familiar it gets, the easier it becomes, right? So I'm not going to say that there's any easy path, but the more consistent you are, the easier it's going to get. That's one. Number two, if you're not sure what path to take, I think the best advice that I give people who are not sure, and that's what worked for me, right? Just try your hands at different things, right? Maybe take 2 weeks of one course, because they have many free courses online. So you could do some free courses in different fields, some of the fields I just mentioned, and find out which one you actually align with the most, which one you actually enjoy doing the most, and then just continue from there. As opposed to starting in one field and maybe a couple of months, you find out that this is not what you really enjoy doing. So just explore, go around, look at what also fits your skills and the things that you naturally like doing, and then just decide on one path. But there's no easy path. I have to warn you ahead.
You have to just sacrifice something if you want something. You see, to be honest, there is no profession better than the other. There is no career pathway better than the other, you see. But you definitely would want to make your research if you want to go into a particular field. If I want to become a radiographer, I want to research. Do I really want to go into industrial radiography, or do I want to go into medical radiography? Do I want to become a mammographer, or do I want to become an MRI radiographer, for instance, you see? So if you're going into tech, it might be worth really talking to someone in tech, if you're not sure the areas, you just like Chidinma has mentioned the areas, you can go deeply into these different areas, just ask questions about the difference in the areas and see which one fits you. You don't necessarily have to go into software engineering. Okay, you can also ask questions, check online. The resources are out there, and you can find more information about what area of tech you think you might be comfortable with. Okay. We also have a question, Chidinma, from somebody. He says, my friend used to be is a medical doctor who has forfeited his PLAB examination. I think that's an examination for people who wants to practice internationally. And now he wants to go into health data analysis. Is it worth it?
Okay, I don't know if it's worth it. I guess he's in the best position to answer if it's worth it, right? Is it worth it to him? If yes, then obviously it's worth it. Your happiness obviously would come first. Choosing what you love, because you can't give your best if you're not working in a field that you enjoy. If you are working in a field that you're grumpy, your patients would even feel it, right? You're not going to be giving them the best care and attention you're supposed to be giving them. So if he's happy where he's going to, then obviously it's worth it. Are you asking me if the monetary aspect of it is worth it? I'm not going to answer that question. But yes, in my own experience, it has been more than worth it. But yeah, I don't know anything about the pay for health analysis, or what do you call it? Health data analysis.
Health data analysis, yeah.
Okay, well, data analysis is really good. I have a sister who is a data analyst, so yes, I know that they are paid well. But again, I don't know if they're paid more than doctors. So I don't know if that's the aspect of asking. Is he asking me whether it's worth it financially? I don't know. But is it worth it? Like for his happiness, obviously, it's worth it. As long as you're doing something you love and something that you can put your best into, even if the pay is not a lot, that's always going to be.
I also want to add to what Chidinma has said. Honestly, to be very frank, I think sometimes it might not just be about the money. If you're talking about does it worth it, I think you probably would want to consider someone's happiness on the long run. You don't want to be in a place where you are not happy. You don't want to be in a place where you, after many years, you look back and say, do you know what, I've wasted my time in this profession. I should have done this, I should have done that, okay? So if it is worth your happiness, then I think it's worth it. Whoever is looking at changing, from whatever profession into health data analysis would have actually made that research to know, okay, health data analysis is what I want to do, for him to come to that point where he's saying it's health data analysis. So I think the gentleman who has that that mind of changing from that medical profession to health data analysis has to answer that question himself. Okay, it's up to him why he wants to change, and he alone can answer that question if it is worth it. Yeah, but coming from Chidinma, I think she is very happy to say it's really worth it going into health data analysis. Okay, we are coming also to the final part of this conversation, and it's regarding a friend who asked a question. He says, I started a tech course, but I found it difficult to continue because of family commitments and some other issues. Also regarding financing, what can I do? So I think this lady is worried about the finance and how to progress in that pathway. Finance in terms of how to fund the course.
So as I've said, there are so many resources online. There are free resources. There are some that you can learn and then pay when you've gotten a job, and there are some that you have to pay upfront for. So, but a lot of these courses will tell you that they are so sure you'll get a job, and that's why they're willing to take the chance on you taking the course first and then paying them after, because they are very certain that you'll get a job once you're done. So when it comes to finances, your best bet may probably be to talk to someone who is already in this field, maybe someone who can mentor you and who can give you free resources that you can use to learn. There are some accelerator programs that even provide laptops, right? There are people who give scholarships for laptops. So if maybe the issue the person has is something like not having access to the best resources like laptop, then just go to Twitter. There are people who are tweeting about these things every day. There are people who are giving scholarships, and there are people who are even willing to take a chance on you and possibly, maybe loan you money to get a laptop. And you don't have to get like a very expensive laptop. Anything that has like access to the internet, not your phone, obviously, but anything that can give you access to like an ideally a development environment, basically, would allow you to learn, right? It's just that you may be learning at a slower pace than someone who is working. If you are using a tab, for example, you may be learning at a slower pace than someone who's working on a laptop. But if you are determined, all these things don't matter. But if you're looking for something that you can do like ASAP fast, I would suggest that you go for platform. So I don't want to drop any names. I think Nemeka is in the best position to do that. I could send him resources later, maybe websites where people can go to. But there are so many of these programs, right, where you go to, you learn, and then after you've gotten a job, you pay them back. It's like they are giving you a student loan for taking this course. So I think I know people who have passed through. Okay, so let me just mention 210, for example. I know so many people who have passed through 210, and it's a very good platform because even afterwards, they help you with like internship placements and job placements. So I know that Girl Code Academy, they also provide laptops for those who don't have you won't take the laptop as your property, but when you're in school, you have the opportunity to use their laptops to learn. And yeah, I don't think finances is such a big deal if you are very serious, because there are so many resources, so many resources online. You don't even have to do paid courses. There are so many free. There's free Code Camp. Even Code Academy gives free courses as well. So there's a lot of places online where you can get free resources that you can use to learn. And then hopefully with that, yeah, actually with that you can get a job. I didn't do any pay course when I was learning. I was switching to tech, so I didn't have to worry about. The only thing I was thinking about was, okay, I don't want to leave my job so that I have money for my daily sustenance and my daily, like I have to pay rent, obviously. I have to eat food. But I wasn't really thinking about money for the courses per se, because all the things I did were actually free. So yeah.
How long did it take you to finish, studying? The duration it took you, the whole training?
Well, I can't really say, because as I mentioned, I did a combination of different things, right? I started learning maybe late 2016. Because of work, I wasn't very consistent. So during my internship year, I wasn't very consistent, but I really put in more effort during my service year. And that was, so I would say about a year from when I started learning to when I got my first job. I would just like to say one thing, like this is something I want everybody to take away, right? Because I think it's what is going to push you on your career path or your career journey. You're switching wherever it is you're switching to. It mustn't be tech, right? As I said, the easiest path is the one you work the hardest at. That's not hard work. Is very important, right? In everything that you're doing, it's very important to be able to put in that work. I mean, it's very easy to just see people on the outside and just assume that, maybe they had it easy, or maybe it's just, oh, maybe they were just lucky. I don't think anybody is that lucky. The truth is that we all put in work, right? At some point, you put in the work. And if you don't put in the work, it's like sit down and have it. Right? If you don't put in the work, you most likely will not reap the benefits. And you can't reap away from what you did not sow. So you have to actually work hard and be consistent. Like just put in time and you'll see the reward. I assure you.
We have come to the end of this conversation, and Chidinma has been so resourceful. If you do have more questions regarding this, I believe you might want to drop some questions on my inbox, and then I'll sort that out for you. Otherwise, enjoy your day, and thank you for watching.